Welcome everyone. For people who joined remotely, welcome, and I'm sure more people will continue to join as we go forward. So it's an absolute pleasure to welcome Dr. Ahmad Malik, who's our rock star from CMH Medical College, a very up and coming star in the field of radiology. He graduated in 2021 from CMH Medical College. He did his research at Mayo Clinic in neuroradiology and interventional radiology, and currently is finishing up his prelim year at Metro West and will be starting his residency at Dartmouth in interventional radiology DRIR pathway. So for the purpose of this talk, I will let Hamad kind of run the show and sort of talk to us a little bit about his journey and then what his also explain, Hamad, if you could please kindly for the people watching and who are going to be watching on YouTube later on, what is the match process basically, and how we can as international medical graduates maximize our chances, because you're somewhat of an expert in that, and then we'll open this forum up towards the last 15-20 minutes for any questions and concerns. So take it away, Hamad.
Thank you so much, Dr. Umar. Excuse me. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So my name is Hamad. I'm, like Dr. Umar said, just a graduate of CMH. I'm very, very fortunate to have interventional radiology this year. And alhamdulillah, it's been a very, unique journey. So for those of you who are wondering, interventional radiology is a subspecialty of diagnostic radiology. It's either you can do a fellowship and now there's an integrated residency as well. If you like procedures, like diagnostic skills, and you want to understand about the different aspects of the body, like neuro, MSK, body, GI, and women's imaging, it's a really wonderful specialty. Anyone encouraged to learn more about this should definitely look into it. It's a wonderful specialty, like every other specialty. If people want to learn more about it, it's a great, great opportunity. So, talking about what exactly is the match and securing residency positions in the United States. So, match is a process that occurs by the organization called the National Residency Matching Program, or the NRMP, which is the organization. And it's a process that starts in September and goes up until March. So, how do we as international graduates apply and get ready for it? It's a process that starts when you first decide whether you want to pursue your postgraduate training in Pakistan, do you want to pursue your postgraduate training in the United Kingdom or Australia, or do you want to pursue your postgraduate training after you complete your MBBS in the United States. So, if you want to come and work in the United States, there's a lot of opportunities to come here. You can come here both as straight after graduation level, if you finish your MBBS, and then you can come here and apply for residency spots, which I will get into. And then there's the other opportunities as well, which are the fellowship opportunities. So you can do your own home country residency in different subspecialties, like medicine, radiology from Pakistan, and then you can apply here for fellowships. So we'll get into that in a little bit down the segment. But first, I think the most important thing I want to emphasize and encourage everyone to do is really learn what the process is. And the most important thing before anyone can pursue anything further along this journey is to make sure you have completed your step 1 examination, your step 2 examination. And ideally, the best timeline would be to, talk to your seniors or talk to people on, your alumni and get in touch as to what is the best plan for you. Definitely get guidance. Nobody can do it alone. I've had wonderful mentors and guides who've helped me get here. I am no one with my teachers and my mentors. So it's very important to get guidance. Excuse me. So the first thing that you guys really need to figure out is getting done with your steps. So ideally, a good timeline, what I would suggest to all students watching, and for those who can record this as and watch this as well, is that now that step 1 is pass and fail, I would highly encourage everyone to start looking into this journey early on, like say around third year. That's when you're getting ready to prepare for your clinical subjects, pathology, microbiology. You're done with the basic sciences. So start looking into your step 1 journey and try to ideally give it within step 4 or at the beginning of give it within your 4th year or ideally, right before your final year starts, in the first 3 months of final year. That way you can get it done. And since it's pass fail, you don't have to focus on getting any type of score. You just need to pass it. With that being said, the next thing would be to obviously give your step two. It's a more clinically oriented subject, so you can definitely, do well in your final year. You can review the subjects. In final year, you study medicine, OBGYN, surgery, pediatrics, and psychiatry. So definitely understanding those subjects and practicing questions, that's going to be something very, very helpful. And, I'm not going to get into more detail. You can definitely look it up and people's perspectives, get guidance from those who have given it. I gave my steps a long time ago. Dr. Umar gave his steps a long time ago. So we're not the best people to guide you about how to give your steps and make your plan. But the bottom line is you have to make sure to get your step one, step two, and when the time comes, get your step three done as well. And now you're ready to move forward towards residency. Now, moving forward, one very important thing that a lot of international graduates don't really get to engage in is US clinical experience. And that is something which is very, very important, because when you're applying for residency, who you worked with, whether you have any experience in the United States, whether there's someone who can recommend you, makes a lot of difference. If you are coming as an international graduate with no clinical experience, nobody is really going to give you that much room for looking at your application, because they don't know who you are. There's no recommendation. They don't know how you are as a person, how you worked, or do you show up on time, do you have a good personality, are you hardworking. So that's why we do these clinical experience electives and rotations and observerships. I'll get into what each is. So you need to come here and get some experience in the United States. So number one thing is, if you are in a medical school in your fourth or final year, try to get a clinical elective hands-on. The best way to do that is through reaching out to professors and doctors who you can request them that I'm in my fourth year, final year. If they are university affiliated, that would be really great. That would be the best way, directly reach them, and then they can facilitate the process. And it takes a while. You have to email, you have to be proactive and just ask them, starting in fourth year. It took me a while to get an observership as well. I had to email a lot, and then one person reached out to me. So it's definitely challenging, but it is possible. Another opportunity is that a lot of schools have now shifted to something called the VSLO, Visiting Student Learning Opportunity. That can be, utilized with the help of your administration, reaching out to the universities. It is something to navigate. I'm going to be very honest, it is challenging, because not a lot of universities, administrations have completely figured that out. But, where there's a will, there's a way. We'll definitely get to the questions in a bit. I see your question, Arslan. Just write it down, hold on to it. We have the last 15-20 minutes where we'll open the room for discussion. Any questions and every questions you guys have, we're going to answer them, inshallah, I promise. So
I just want to interject again, as just for those folks who are joining us, and initially, welcome everybody. We love your participation. I don't want to distract, like Hamad said. So everybody, please keep your mics muted. Towards the end, everybody can raise their hands, and I'll unmute and we'll ask the questions. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
thank you. So, like I was saying, getting observerships, electives, and these rotations is very, very critical. Best way is to reach out, email, cold email as much as you can. I think I can personally say my research, my residency has been a lot of emailing. Just, reach out, explain yourself, be very courteous, be very respectful. And, worst thing they're going to say is no. But then there's so many different doctors, so many different people who are willing to help you. So for every door that closes, there will be another one that opens. You just have to keep trying. Now, gaining observerships, it's really important. It's also better to get it in your specialty. Like if you're interested in radiology, if you're interested in surgery, if you're interested in medicine, doing it in the specialty of your choice is probably the best way to go about it, because you don't want to be pursuing radiology and then doing an elective in surgery. Medicine might be helpful. It will definitely be helpful. Don't get me wrong, because you will need a letter of recommendation from a different specialist, because you will be applying for preliminary medicine or preliminary surgery as a part of your intern year. But it's important to get different letters from different clinical subspecialties. For example, when I applied, I had one letter from a medicine doctor and two letters from my radiology directors and one from my research. So you have to keep into account that getting letters from your specialty of choice is probably the best way to make sure that you express your interest, because your letter writers are going to emphasize that he is interested or she is interested in radiology medicine. They work specifically hard in this aspect, they're interested in subspecialty. Everything has to align. This is something which I think a lot of people really need to understand. Everything has to align. Like your research has to align, your experiences has to align, your application has to align. If you're interested in cardiology, then trying to do rotation in cardiology, trying to do any research in cardiology, attending any of these American cardiology conferences, this is something that adds up. Because if you have bits and pieces from different areas because you just want to get experience, it's not going to look good. Because think, we no one really talks about this. They're just like, just get your steps and come here. But you need to understand, having a plan is very, very important, because otherwise, if you're just trying to go from one place to another, trying to get your hands on anything that comes your way, in the long run, it's not going to benefit you. A lot of colleagues go unmatched because of this reason. They don't have the CV that adds up. Every one of international graduates have, mashallah, amazing scores, but then they still keep going unmatched because their CVs don't add up. Their personal statements are talking about their different journeys through this. And you have to think of it from perspective of a program director or someone who is sitting at a leadership position. They want someone who can really emphasize that I have done this research, I have done this experience, I have done this, which aligns with my goals, which shows that I'm interested in this, I have worked in this, I have this much experience, and it adds up. They want to see someone who is consistent. So keep those things in mind when you guys are all applying for your journey. And definitely don't compare yourself with others, because everyone has a unique journey and you're all amazing candidates who are going to get to where you want to be, inshallah. The important thing is just to remain persistent. Now, with that being said, moving on to after clinical electives, research is something that is gaining more and more, popularity among a lot of international graduates, because sometimes people are unable to secure observership opportunities, and as the year of graduation goes on, ideally, it's better to be the sooner you graduate, the sooner you apply for residency. That's just a hardline rule. But then it's not the end of the world. If you are a graduate of more than 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, that's okay. I want to assure you that's okay. But you have to show them that you have been working hard. Even if you have a 5 year gap, that's all right. But if you are able to get into a good research program, if you have worked really, really hard and someone is willing to mentor you and vouch for you and advocate for you, trust me when I say this, all of your red flags will disappear. This is what I mean by having the goals of being consistent and persistent, being extremely hardworking, and showcasing that you are worth someone trusting you. If you bring yourself up to be someone who's extremely hardworking, very courteous, respectful, kind, shows up on time, works harder than everyone else, is not just there like, oh, sir, can you give me a letter? Oh, sir, can you give me an opportunity because I'm here and then I'm going to go. This is something that really matters, because when you're applying here, a lot of things that we're not necessarily taught are really taken into high consideration. Your EQ, emotional quotient, or emotional intelligence, or how you carry yourself. Are you someone who is respectful to the person's time? How you present yourself? These are the things that really make a difference when a person is applying as an international graduate, because we don't really know how to talk to these American graduates. We don't know how to do that, because we think that it's a very challenging situation and we have to just get our spot. But this is something which I've noticed that we learn through time, that you have to be someone who is respectful. You have to be someone who is mindful that you are talking with and attending. You have to prove your worth, bottom line. And that comes with time, that comes with hard work, that comes with effort. So, this is one thing I really want to emphasize upon everyone. Don't rush into this process thinking I need to graduate, I need to get into residency really quickly. Rushing never helps anyone with anything. Now, with that being said, moving on to how to obtain research opportunities, and I already discussed how to obtain electives. You just email people, email reprogram coordinators, excuse me. Emailing program coordinators for research opportunity is probably a really great way, as well as emailing, professors, doctors, if you have any connections, if you have any seniors who are in programs, they can try to help you. But then, there's so many different ways. I personally emailed program coordinators. I connected with attendings, and I requested them that if you are available, I would love to come observe you. I would love to come work with you. Some said, we're sorry, we don't have observerships. We cannot accommodate you this time. But then there were so many others that said, yes, you can come in for 2 weeks, you can come for a month. And, during that time, you gain experience and you work with an attending, you rotate with them, you learn. And then towards the end, you can ask them, professor or doctor or sir, madam, I would really appreciate if I can get some feedback. And I will be applying this year, so I would love to stay in touch as well. These things matter because you want to maintain that relationship, not just there for a rotation and then leave. Because later on, when you're applying, you can actually ask your mentors, the people you work with, hey, I'm going to be applying. I would really appreciate it if you can support my application and if you can possibly recommend me to a program. And this comes through, your actions, how you behaved and acted. Were you there on time? Were you, someone who worked hard, or did you just come and go? So these are things to really keep in mind when you're coming here. Now, moving on to research. Research is, twofold. One, do you want to do a research project versus do you want to take on a research fellowship? Research projects are basically like you reach out to just imagine like you reached out to Dr. Omar and you asked him, hey Dr. Omar, I'm a graduate from this place, I would love to do a project with you. And if Dr. Omar has a case report or like a small review paper, he can be like, okay, this is a project I'm working on, if you can do work on this portion, show it to me, I can help you. And then when the time comes, we can review it, and when it's cleared, I can send it for publication, and that can you know in a few months that can be published, and that can help add something to your CV. Now these are small projects that people can help you with. You can get those projects by emailing different professors, different teachers and residents. But to be honest, this is something that's a bit difficult to comprehend because not every American attending or resident will have that much time to give you a project, mentor you, teach you, and talk to you about what to do. This is something that's possible with your own Pakistani attendings if you're working with them in your hospitals, or if you have any doctors who come here and teach and who are involved in academic research in institutions here or outside. This can be helpful, but the best way to really approach research, if you are applying for competitive specialties like neurosurgery, interventional radiology, or radiology, and even medicine now, a lot of people are taking on these research fellowship years where you reach out to professors across the different university hospitals, Mayo Clinic, Beth Israel Deaconess Harvard, University of Texas, or Yale, Princeton, University of Pennsylvania. You go to their different departments, and I've said this in different videos as well. It is completely okay to email massive number of people, because I don't think you will get a response by just emailing 10, 20 people. It's something that takes time. You have to email lots and lots of professors. You can ask them in a very respectful manner that, hello, my name is Dr. Ali or whatever, and you can be like, I am a graduate of this medical school, I have completed my step 1, step 2, I am very interested in your research, I have reviewed your papers, they are aligned with my clinical specialty, I'm very interested, and I'm willing to commit to 1 to 2 years, and I'm willing to learn from you. I would really appreciate the opportunity to work with you. And whenever you are available, sir, we can discuss over Zoom, and I can share a template with you guys as well. um, it's definitely something that's possible, but this is something that you guys need to understand. For research purposes, a lot of positions are going to be unfunded, but even before you can apply to a research position, you need to get some research experience yourself as well while you're there in Pakistan, while you're there in medical school. It's very helpful to just reach out to seniors, reach out to doctors who are in your medical school, like your assistant professors or your associate professors who are involved in research, and just asking them, Doctor, may I please work on a project with you? That is how I started. When I was in my third year of medical school, we had a professor who was in vascular surgery. I really, liked his work, and he used to publish a lot, and he used to help medical students publish a case report or two. So I reached out to him. I asked him, sir, I would love to work on a project with you. May I come observe you, and may I come do a project with you? He said, of course. He gave me a project, and being efficient on time. Just to give you an example, he gave me the project on Thursday, and he gave me a portion to write. So I finished it before Sunday, and he liked that I was able to deliver on time. I was, able to make sure that I get all the work done, and proofread it to make sure there aren't any errors. And he appreciated my timeliness, and this is something that he liked, and he gave me more projects. So this is something that really can be done while you're there, because keep in mind, you're not just working on this project to get a publication. You're working on it to gain experience, because when you're applying to these research fellowships, if you bring experience with you, you know how to write, you know how to do analysis, you know how to do literature searches, or you know how to calculate certain graphs, or you know how to do biostatistics. All of these things make you a more valuable candidate when you're coming to apply for these research positions. And when I was working with my research professor, I remember having a meeting, and while he was there, his laptop kept popping up emails, emails, emails. And he told me, I get 100+ emails every day from international graduates around the world who are asking for research positions, who are asking to come work with me. And it's very challenging to find someone to work with if they don't have any experience, because it's like you have to teach them everything. So they prefer people who have some experience, and that also helps you as well, because if you have a lot of significant experience, that's very helpful to getting a funded or a paid research position. If you can get a unfunded position very easily as well. If you don't know anything about research, that's okay. And then you can just email these professors that I'm willing to learn, I'm here, I'm excited, I'm enthusiastic. They appreciate that you're willing to come and you're willing to learn. And it is an investment in a way, because when you're coming here as an unfunded research fellow, you are showing them your commitment, you are showing them your dedication, you're showing them that you're willing to work hard, and they appreciate this. So this is something to keep in mind as well. A lot of research positions initially will be unfunded, and very few positions, I personally know people who have secured funded positions from day one, because there it also depends on if there's funding available. So let's just say, I'll give you an example. You reach out to, say, a professor from Harvard or Yale, and you reach out that, hi, I am really interested in your research, I'm willing to commit to you and work with you for 2 years, and I would appreciate if you can mentor me, guide me, and I would love to have the opportunity to learn from you. Okay, you get a response back. Hi, thank you for your email. Thank you for reaching out to me. We will consider you as a research candidate. Do you have any experience? How long are you willing to work for? And also, are you funded, or do you need funding? This is something that will a lot of people will ask. Do you have funding, or do you need funding? And a lot of times when we come here as an international graduate, it is definitely expensive. So questions, we do ask them that, sir, I will require funding. A lot of people from other countries around the world, like Saudi Arabia or Europe, they send their graduates or candidates, and they provide them state funding so that they just go and learn, and then when they're done learning, they come back. So that's what means by, I have state funding. For us as international graduates, we don't have state funding. We come on our own, and our families help support us, or if we have funds saved up from our own house job or anything like that, or if we've done some training or made some finances from other resources, we utilize them. So when we ask them that, sir, I can commit to you, I will require funding, and how can we work together to get funding, that's something that you have to ask your professors, and they will be very straightforward. They can tell you that right now I don't have funding, but I can work towards getting you funding depending on how hard you work and within the first year. Because you have to think about it. If you come work with him and you are not being as productive as he wants you to be, or he gives you projects and you you don't finish them on time, or you're focused on applications or other stuff, or it's easy to get busy when you're applying and doing research as well. Or at the same time, if you're like, oh sir, I need to give my step 2 or step 3 or anything like that, it makes it hard for them as well to fully invest in you because you're not fully investing in their research program. So my professor told me this, it's an investment, because if they're going to talk to the department, they're going to talk to the administration that let's get this candidate funded, let's get him, you know, monthly stipends, make sure that he's taken care of, he's working very hard, he comes on time, he stays late, delivers his projects quickly. That shows the commitment, and that shows them that this is someone who's willing to work very, very hard, and let's get him funding because they really value and respect you that you're willing to work really, really hard. However, if someone, you know, doesn't deliver the projects on time, delivers them late, or his work is not so good, he's not learning appropriately, then as time passes by, you might get a few projects done. But then towards the end of the year, the professor, if you have a talk with your professor that, hey, professor, what is the funding situation? Or I wanted to ask, is there a possibility of getting funded? They will tell you, to be honest, it is challenging to get you funded. There's not that resources, or, you know, it might not be possible to get you funded. They might just switch you to a non-funded position for your second year as well. It all depends on your own hard work and ethic. But keep in mind, there are positions from day one. I know some colleagues who started day one who did not have that much experience but started with a funded position. So it really depends on the availability of funds from your professors as well. But it also depends on your hard work. Some colleagues that I worked with when I was doing my research, I also started out as an unpaid research fellow when I was doing my research. And it really depends on the location you are at as well, because a lot of the university hospitals are based off in big cities, which can be expensive, and then there are other university hospitals or big hospitals like Mayo, which are in Minnesota, which is a very cheap state, so it can be manageable. But point being, one of my colleagues, he and I both started out around the same time. He was unfunded for around 7 months, but he worked extremely, extremely hard. He was publishing 2 papers a month, sometimes 3 papers. I would be coming in at 7 a.m. He would be there earlier. I would be leaving around 7 p.m. He would still be there late till like 10 p.m. Sometimes he would, stay in the hospital late. He would sleep overnight in the research hospital, sorry, in the research department, and just get coffee in the morning and make sure he finishes his projects. This is the amount of hard work and effort that he put in, and he was very, very good. He had done research for 3 years beforehand, and he had a lot of publications, and he came here as a research fellow, and within 6 to 7 months, he became funded. They put him on a funded position. So these are the types of stories that encourage you, that if you work really, really hard, you deliver on time, that's when you're going to be switched from a funded to an unfunded to a funded position. And then there are those situations where people, when you start day one, you have funds available, but then maybe in the second year you might not have funds available, or after 1 year you can switch to a different specialty. For example, if you came to a specialty in cardiology, and over there they did not have funding, but after 1 year it's becoming expensive, you can talk to your professors, you can talk to your mentors and ask them that, professor, is there a possibility of funding available? And they can tell you that, no, I'm very sorry, but we don't have funding available. But then you can ask them, all right, well, if it's all right with you, may I please switch to a different position for funding purposes? And they are very helpful. They can be like, okay, that's fine. And then people switch from different specialties. They switch to different hospitals, because at the end of the day, it is a journey. You have to navigate your way. So that's something to keep in mind as well when you are applying for research fellowships. Now, with that being said, when it comes to the actual match, so that is a combination of everything that happens. You give your steps, you have your research experience, you have your clinical electives, and then you apply. you go to these conferences, you meet people. It's something very important for a lot of candidates who are coming to the United States to do research fellowships. It's much more easier if you're here to go attend these conferences versus if you're coming from Pakistan to attend a conference. It is definitely a challenging situation because not everyone can afford to come here, which is something that does help your application if you are here in the country, if you're here in the area. Area programs matter as well. My program where I matched, I was in the area. I was in Massachusetts, and my program is in New Hampshire, which is around an hour and a half, 2 hours away. So being in the area really influences programs because they're like, okay, he or she is in the area. It won't be difficult for him to move. They are used to the environment, or these things take into account, and I'll get to that in a little bit. When it comes to the match, it's a three-step process. So firstly, obviously, you prepare your application, and your application consists of your scores, your experiences, your research, your presentations, your abstracts, and your community service or social services, your hobbies. For example, a lot of us really don't focus much on um, community services that much. We help out in the free clinics in the university, or we can volunteer at some NGOs in Pakistan. But over here, they really take into account these type of situations. I know colleagues who, when they were here volunteering, they used to work at the Red Cross, which is an organization for blood donation, and they would volunteer there. Some people who would work at the free community clinic, because you don't have a license, you can't really do a lot of clinic stuff, but you can always help out in filling forms at the clinic, or help out with showing the patients around. There's always opportunities if you are here, just asking them that, hey, I would love to volunteer, hey, I would love to help out. And even back home in Pakistan, you can ask them that I would love to just be a part of this organization, arrange charity drives. There's so many NGOs. You can even start your own NGO, and these things matter. Or you can do like some of my colleagues have started their own radiology interest groups in different universities. That helps as well because that shows that you took initiative, you showed leadership, you want to help educate people, you want to show guide others. And these are all things that really, really look very nicely. It shows that you take initiatives, you are involved, you are making a positive change rather than just giving your steps and applying for residency. You have to help you make yourself stand out because it's becoming more and more challenging. Everyone has amazing scores, everyone has amazing electives. You have to do these things to help yourself stand out, especially if you're applying for competitive specialties. And now, even medicine is definitely becoming competitive. But the point I'm trying to say is not to scare you, is to tell you that inshallah you will all make it if you put your hard work and effort into it, but you have to do more to make yourself stand out. So making sure to be involved in these societies, being taking steps to start your research groups or interest groups. Like you can start a cardiology interest group. It can be as simple as just, this is how I started my university interest group. I just reached out, I made a group, like whoever's interested in radiology, I added them to my radiology group. And over there I just share sometimes, like talks or topics, or seminars that are coming up, or if I'm in touch with some professors and I help organize like a residency or radiology guidance, and I just share the link. And it can be as simple as that. Or I can reach out to a professor and be like, can you please give a small talk on this topic, and I can share the link. So it's these small things. It doesn't have to be complicated. Just getting a group of people who are interested and giving them resources, offering them these opportunities. This is the way to go about it, and you can all do this. It's very, very simple. It's just taking the initiative, and through trial and error you learn, you showcase that you can do more of these things. And believe me, it makes a huge impact.
summarize. Great talk, Ahmad. Thank you so much for your overview on this. We're going to be putting this on YouTube as well later on. So just to summarize the match process itself, just to build on and sort of piggyback on what Ahmad was saying, everyone should be familiar with 3 or 4 organizations. So ECFMG and excuse me, a lot of you may already know this, so I don't mean to be redundant, but just for our folks who are maybe listening for the first time about the US match back home or anywhere else outside the country, ECFMG, which is the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates, is an important organization to know. That is what is going to certify you and where you're going to be giving your exams, and which is going to be acting as your virtual medical school. The other organization that's very important is EROS, which is the Electronic Residency Application System. Most residencies go through EROS. There is also something called the SF Match, which is for urology and ophthalmology. And that match is separate from NRMP, which most organizations match. So be sure to go onto your organization's, your specialties page to see which match they participate in. But for the most part, everybody accepts through EROS. And then the matching process, like Hamad mentioned, is through the National Residency Match process. So excellent talk, Hamad. I'll just divert you a little bit towards a couple of points I wanted your, expertise or opinions on. That was visas. So, we've had like a lot of, especially from Pakistan, there's been a lot of concern for rejections in B1, B2 visas recently. So again, for our younger folks, people who even in various past lives, and again, when I mean younger folks, I don't mean by age, I mean people who are not exposed to the US pathway maybe necessarily, or just start looking at it. Don't get discouraged. Don't think that, hey, I'm not in my 3rd year of medical school, so what am I going to do now? Or I've done FCPS, or I've done already done this and this, so I can't do that. You can climb onto this ladder or this train at any point of your life. All right, anything is acceptable. I have a bunch of these stories, and we'll get to them in a second. But Hamad, going back to you, I didn't want to take too much time away from you. But could you briefly talk about visas, not only for observerships, but for research purposes, and just briefly how we do that?
Of course. Thank you, Dr. Amar. So for electives and observership visas, you will have to come here on a B1, B2 visa. The best way to go about it is definitely, applying as a family together, or, it's easier to get a visa together as a family. And if you want to get a visa specifically for an observership, it really matters if you get it from a university or if it's just a private clinic, like if it's a family friend or anyone, because that makes it challenging for the US government to give you a visa because they don't know this person's clinic, they don't know this organization. So you have to be a bit thorough regarding that. So getting a B1, B2 visa is definitely important. Having some form of travel history is something, that helps. If you have been traveling and if you have shown that you have traveled to the United States before, is definitely helpful getting a B1, B2. If you get your first B1, B2 rejected, that's okay. I have no colleagues who got their rejected from Islamabad. They went to Karachi and applied it again, and that was helpful as well. So that's definitely something that's possible. Also, in case your B1, B2 gets rejected, that's all right, because when you apply for research visas, you get an official letter. A research opportunity is becoming more and more easier because research is basically you're coming to work here versus an observership where you're just rotating with them for 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. And while you are there on a J1 visa, which you will get from your research professor. So this is how it works. You ask your professors, you have the meeting, you discuss the goals, you finalize, okay, I am graduating in May, I will join in June. And they're like, and you keep in mind you have to apply 6 months in advance for a research. Like I applied in December, I had my meeting at the end of December, and in January my professor said that, okay, I think we can make this work, I'm going to start the paperwork. And he asked me, when would you like to start? I said I will be graduating in May, I can start in June. He said okay. In March my paperwork started showing up, I went to the embassy, I got that visa done. And after that, after that, my paperwork completely finalized, and then that's it. And then I went to the embassy, got my J1 approved, and then came to the United States to start my research fellowship. Now, a J1 visa is significantly much better than a B1, B2 because that's like a job visa. You're coming here as a student who's coming to work here. B1, B2 is a travel visa, family visa. That takes much more longer to come because there's a backlog. More people want to come and visit the United States as a vacation as opposed to coming to work as a research associate. Now, one of the biggest benefits of a research visa or a J1 visa is that it comes directly from a university hospital, and they give you letters of support. When I got my research visa, I had two letters. One was my acceptance letter, and second was a letter that was written by one of the professors and the human resources department that said this doctor needs to come to the hospital. His work will significantly impact our activities. So that's something that really helps. When you go to the embassy office, they see that letter, they see the university hospital logo, they're like, okay, wow, this person is important, we need to give him the visa. Never will anyone's J1 visa ever get rejected if it comes from a university hospital where the hospital director literally writes, this person needs to come here. B1, B2 can be rejected, but it can always be accepted as well. So that is also something I wanted to emphasize upon you guys. If you want to come for research, that would be very, very helpful. And keep in mind, during your research year, if you reach out to your professor and ask them, you can also do observerships during your research time as well. That is something that you have to discuss with your professor. You can reach out to him. So if you are unpaid, you can ask them that I would really appreciate if I can have 2 weeks off, and I could go do an observership at a local hospital or something like that. If you are funded, it's a bit more challenging, but that's something you will have to discuss with your professor. So bottom line, visas are definitely something that do encourage and discourage some people. It's okay if you get a rejection, that's quite all right. It's still possible to come here, get this journey started. You can have a first rejection, but you can apply again, it can get accepted. If you feel like your visa is rejected a second time, I would highly, highly encourage you to start looking for research positions as well. That can be helpful. If you have a step 3 examination, that is a legitimate reason that you need to come here, because you need to give one portion of the exam here in the United States. So that can be something that can be helpful. And during that time, you can come and do some observerships or rotations. Obviously, if you are a U.S. citizen doing medical school in Pakistan, you don't need to have that issue. But just being a bit more careful about these things, that there's backup available. Best to apply for observerships from big university hospitals, because they give you a letter, and that letter is more useful than someone from private clinics or these organizations that you pay money. Sometimes they might work, sometimes they may not work. And then there is a third trend coming up where you don't need a visa. This is something like, if nothing else works, you can use this, the virtual electives, where you just pay like $1,000 or $1,500, and you basically sit at home on Zoom, and you observe the doctor through the grand rounds, or they talk about things and they give you an assignment, and that counts as technical virtual elective because you're learning, you're observing. I know some people who did that during COVID. It is like a last resort, but it is definitely there in case your visa is not getting accepted or if it's not helpful. So that can be something to keep in account as well. If you come for a conference, like if you present, if you work with some residents, if you can show that your paper has been accepted, that can be very helpful. But keep on trying to get different alternatives is probably the best way to go about it. And research is probably one of the best ways to guarantee that you will not get your visa rejected. But again, it's not for everyone. You don't have to do a research here. You can do observerships, you can do a lot of experience from home country, and that can help you as well. And
Perfect.
like I said, EG, NRMP, um, the OA, and these ECFMG, NRMP, these are the organizations to just familiarize yourself with.
Thank you, Ahmad. And then, we'll open it up for, questions for the people who are attending live and later on as well. I think the take-home point for everybody who's attending or will be watching on YouTube later on: network, network, network. That's the basic issue. Whether it's through your medical school, whether it's through Twitter, whether it's through anybody else, reach out to folks in a professional, polite manner. If somebody doesn't respond, don't worry about it. It could be, I've had some juniors from my own medical school who I couldn't respond in an immediate amount of time. Doesn't mean that that person has forgotten about you, or you should take that as a personal front. Just don't burn any bridges. If somebody doesn't reply or doesn't help at that time, just move on to the next, available area. Be specific, polite, but network. That's the important key. So we'll open it up to any more questions in the end. Ahmad, thank you so much. I thank everybody for the live attention. I did also want to stress that during this match process, it's also very important to have a realistic conversation about specialty selections. And that may be something that you would want to do maybe after you've taken your steps and what kind of research background you have. And that conversation as a fellowship program director, as a medical school, mentor that we're here, we do them on all of our first year, third year, and fourth year medical students. I'll have routine sessions. Every faculty is provided that, and where we have a conversation with our students in terms of what they want to do and what their scores are. And if it goes to a line, then great, you can pursue that. But if they don't, then you really have to have a conversation. Do I feel passionate enough to continue on this specialty? If yes, you do, I would definitely encourage you to do that. There have been people who with low scores who've still matched into surgical or competitive specialties, but then you also take in mind that you will have to go through the longer route that Hamad is mentioning. So with that in mind, and so that we can kind of keep it, and not do too much redundant information. If somebody has a question, please raise your hands, and then I'll call, and then they can unmute anybody. I think somebody initially had a question. Just a sec. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we have this anonymous guest.
I
That
think Ali had an initial question initially, so we'll start with Ali, and then we can move on to the anonymous. And please, whoever is, if you're comfortable enough, please introduce yourself. And it's also a great opportunity to get yourself out there and what your, specialty of interest is. If so far, if no, great. And then yeah, Ali, what was your question?
Hello, Dr. Chaudhary and Dr. Hamad. How are you guys? Can you hear me, please?
Yep.
yeah, we
Hear you.
Okay. I am Ali Hasnan, a graduate of King Edward Medical University, and I'm done with my steps. And I'm coming to the US for a research position. And my J1 scholar visa is expected in a month or so. So my question was like, I heard like a couple of guys from my university got their J1 rejected because they were not able to prove that they will come back, or one of them did not have funding, like he did not have a good bank statement. So how can we prove like that we will get back, and this is my proof that I will get back after the research position? So how can I prove that?
Hamad, do you want to take this? I'll have a couple of comments on this as well.
Sure. So I think just, showcasing that your values and your goals are there, it's definitely something you should prepare for, because everyone has a different answer. So definitely it's like an interview, you should prepare for it, telling them that, my family is here, this is my goals, I want to come back, I want to, teach here. If you decide later on during your career, if you want to switch up and, you want to practice here, that's totally fine. This is not something you should bring up to the visa officer, whose only job is to determine whether this person is going to come back or not. You don't have to tell them your life story. Just be very straightforward, to the point. Practice that I want to come and learn. I want to bring these knowledge that I learned from the United States and I want to bring it back home. Want to teach. I have a plan. My family is here. My plans are here. You can talk about, oh, I will be getting married soon, and my partner or my husband or wife, whatever, they will be here, and we want to do this practice. Or just, you have to show these points that my family is here, my home is here, my financial assets are here, my university is here. These things will definitely help you solidify your case. Some visa officers don't even ask that. It really depends on who you get. Some can be a bit difficult to talk to, and some can be very straightforward. They just look for my visa application for my J1. They simply asked, oh, you're going to this hospital. Oh, what is going to be your specialty? Okay, very nice. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, I would second that. I think J1 overall, I mean, it's very rare to have J1 rejected, to be quite honest with you, because it's an exchange visitor program. So having said that, they can technically, reject you at any point in time. So it again, like Hamad was saying, having a local job at the time of application may help you, secure some funds. Family, because everybody's in a different financial boat. We're not all, we may not have that much funds available to us. We may not have that much property or any other assignments. So that doesn't matter. What's important is that you say, okay, I have this much family. Everybody's in Pakistan or everybody's back outside the country. So you basically want to prove that you have strong ties That could be economical ties, that could be family ties, that could be professional ties. But having said that, ones are usually less likely to be rejected. Don't and that's just something that's kind of rare. But great question, Ali. And then did we have any other questions so far? So if nobody's raising hands, I'll just have some questions for Hamad myself from what other people have sent for. So as far as like we talked about the visas and the networking. What kind of local networking would you recommend in Pakistan while people are like in Pakistan itself?
Sure. So a lot of these organizations in Pakistan organize meetings where international doctors do come. For example, I know that Interventional Radiological Society of Pakistan just had a meeting where they invited some international doctors who came here, and meeting them, getting a chance to, say hello, salam. A lot of them are Pakistani or Muslim, Americans who grew up there. Some are not, definitely attending conferences, having the opportunity to work with them, meet with them locally. That would be something very, very helpful. Apart from that, just reaching out. There's a lot of doctors who are American MDs who work in, Shaukat Khanam or different hospitals across Pakistan. Reaching out to them and asking them that, hey, I'm really interested, I would love to have the opportunity to work with you. That's how my brother got his research program. He went to a doctor's hospital. He noticed that one of the doctors there was an associate professor at a university hospital here in America. He requested that if I could have the number or email of that doctor. We actually scheduled an appointment just for a clinic meeting, and then we went to go say salam and just hello, and just, we don't need to get a checkup, we just wanted to talk with you. And met them respectfully, asked them for their guidance, and just asked them if we could come observe with you, build that relationship, maintain it for 1.5 year, and then just ask them that I would love to come do research with you. And then that was something that worked out. So there's definitely these opportunities, but again, it's like, what if you don't look, you won't find it. You have to look, you have to reach out, keep trying. There's doctors in Shaukat Khanam who are in association with doctors here who do research. There's doctors in your own university who come and go and teach doctors and do research. So it's all about just being actively involved, and anything helps as long as you can show that you put in effort, you put in time. So mentoring, connections, all of these things help. And one thing I want to emphasize, you shouldn't have one mentor. You should have multiple mentors. You should have a mentor in Pakistan, you should have a mentor in America, you should have a resident mentor, a professor mentor, a director mentor. And the more you reach out, the more chances you have of asking them and meeting them. And the more mentors you have, the more people who are in your corner willing to help you.
Perfect. Hamad, thank you so much. And then one other question that had come up previously was this concept of tokens in the match. That's a relatively new concept, right? Where you can give like a token to a program. Are you familiar with that? Or
Yeah, so it's not exactly tokens, Dr. Umar. It's called signals. So signaling is something that has come out. I have made a video about it with Dr. Umar Awan on YouTube. So definitely for those who are watching, I can, definitely just recommend follow Dr. Umar Awan on YouTube. He has this video and we've done it. But briefly, signaling is basically, think of it like everyone sends like an application, and a signal is sort of like a red hat or a red feather, if you will, that basically tells the program, I really, really like you. And think of it like this way: if you were a director or you were a person who received 1,000 applications for 5 spots, out of those 1,000 applications, 200 people might have signaled you. So those 200 definitely emphasize that I really, really like you. And that puts them at a higher chances of getting their application reviewed, because you have to think about it. Program directors like Dr. Umar, who's a fellowship director, they get thousands of people applying to their program, and it's impossible to review all 1,000 applications. So you have to, put filters like step scores, graduation, or are you in the area? And that way, they basically came up with this whole system of signaling location to make it easier for the directors and to give it a fair chance as well, because they don't want all the seats to go to, just specific group of people. So signaling is basically something you can use for your favor. If you say have family in New York, or you really like this one program that you rotated at. So you can signal this program in New York. And there's also this area called a location or geographical preference. You can write down, East Coast, which comes New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. And you can show that I am in the area, or I want to be in the area, I have family here. And then, just to give you a few five examples, like Yale Hospital, Pennsylvania Hospital, you can give them a signal that can be like, I'm really, really interested. Obviously, the top hospitals, they will get signals from all around the world. But if there's a hospital that you really like, that you really connected with, if you did an observership, or someone of your seniors is doing a rotation there, or is a resident there, and you signal them, that can obviously help your application, because it'll show that, okay, I've used. And keep in mind, you only get 7 or 10 signals. So that means if you apply to 200 programs, you can only tell 10 of them that I really, really like you, and I would really appreciate if you can review my application. And that makes you like, okay, if you have good scores, if you have uh, good letters of recommendation, and okay, you've signaled us as well. This happened in my interviews. Programs that I signaled looked at me and they said, oh, so you've signaled us, that means you're very interested. I said, yes sir, I would love to come work with you, observe your program. And that helps. So I hope that answers the question.
Perfect. And again, just to kind of, again, add on to that, Arslan has a question. I see. We'll get to you in a sec, Arslan. Just to add on to that, like Hamad said, you have a limited number. So, as much as I would want to match at MGH, and if I've had an interview at MGH, doesn't really mean that, you have to like really have a conversation with yourself about your chances. So it's much better to signal a mid-tier program or university program where you're likely to match, rather than this Ivy League program that you barely were able to get a match or interview into. Having said that, of course, you can do that. It's sort of your own priority. So, Arslan, I'll open it up to you. Do you have a question? If you could unmute and introduce yourself.
Hello, Dr. Umar and Dr. Hamad. Arsalan Nadeem. I'm a final year medical student at Allama Iqbal Medical College, Lahore. First of all, thank you so much for this session. It has been a very informative opportunity, and I've personally got a lot to learn. My first question would be that would observerships as a graduate be adequate to balance the lack of electives done during medical school in the US? So, what do you think about that?
I did observerships and they helped me. Oh, sorry, Dr. Umar, you can go
No,
ahead.
I'll let Hamad talk. This did take me to a small point I wanted to make, and we're kind of running on towards our end of our presentation. But as a person who's been interviewing people for a while for residencies, I can say one thing. There's something that's unified thing which every residency program looks for, and then there are specific things that depends on your specialty or the geographical location. So every residency or fellowship program that I'm looking for, I would want a resident who's hardworking, professional, and then competent. So this order. So those are things that you're looking for. So the observerships, as long as they're able to get you those, that verification, that requirement, that's perfectly fine. And I'll let Hamad answer that question as well. Yep, Hamad.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, observerships are definitely helpful. Medical students then can do observerships or electives. Ideally, you should do elective because that's like a graded rotation. Observership is basically you're just observing the doctor, as the name says. Elective is you are doing a rotation. You will be given an assignment. You will be observed. You will be asked to, make a presentation or anything, and then you will get a letter of recommendation. But don't keep in mind, observerships and electives don't guarantee a letter of recommendation. No one is obliged to give you a letter. You have to earn it. Keep that in mind. Working with the doctor, being professional, courteous, hardworking, respectful to the residents, the team members, these are the things that take into account. Getting electives as a medical student is obviously the best case scenario. If you are unable to, observerships can also help people match with observerships, because what you really need from an observership is experience, that you have seen patients, you know how to use electronic medical records. Over here in the United States, we do like electronic charting, so you know how to use that. And apart from that, you have worked with doctors who can write you good letters of recommendation. That is the whole point of observerships, electives, and these experiences.
Exactly. So it's a bundle thing, I mean, and that hardworking professionalism, if you can prove that before on an interview through a letter, that's very useful because, until unless I know somebody, I'm originally from Pakistan. If I know people from Pakistan, I can say, okay, this institute is reliable or not. But remember, we have a whole panel. So the interview process may be networked issue, but nobody selects residents based off just one person's opinion. So one person may be able to get you an interview, but the rest is up to you to kind of go in and then move forward from that. So it's a bundle effort. Scores matter. Your publications matter. Your US clinical recommendations and experience are also helpful. So anything that helps you stand out of the crowd is useful. And again, the observership selectors, I heard varying, review on that in terms of visa issues. Some interviewers have had issue when, as a student, when they've said that they've been going for observerships, where some visa officers have said that, hey, you're a student, you should only be doing electives. But again, I think that's a very rare kind of, you caught them probably on a bad day. Otherwise, usually observerships, electives, they shouldn't be making that much of a difference. Arslan, do you have any follow-up questions on that?
Yeah, yeah. So my second question would be that specifically for postdoctoral research positions, what kind of experience or skill sets would set us apart to get selected for those positions, especially in radiology?
So I would actually just kind of summarize that. Samad has talked about this in extent in the early part of it, so we won't repeat too much of it. But again, as Hamad said, networking and trying to get your initial experience in Pakistan would be very important, where you can learn to do some research and make contacts. If you know your basic research and have some contacts, that's great. There are people who are willing to take you on as unpaid positions to sort of help you through that process, but I would say that that's relatively rare. So try to get your experience, as Hamad said. Listen to the first talk. I'll put this up for YouTube as well. You need to do some form of research at your local institution as much as possible, or locally in Pakistan, to get some publications and basic, literacy and research in terms of what is PubMed, how to do literature search, basic biostatistic measures, so you can prove that you know some basic things. Because postdoc is a very big thing. The research fellowship is a big commitment by that institution, and that really needs, you need to be verified. So doing observerships beforehand, coming, learning some research, and then applying for postdoc is another way to do it. But if you cannot, try to do as much research in Pakistan as much as possible, or remotely. So anybody else with questions? So I think
I think the last one, there was a message in the group, so I just want to answer that for student Hafsa. So you mentioned, Hafsa, that what can a second year medical student who wants to do neurology do? So I think definitely being involved, if any there, I know that Lahore has neurology conferences that happen, so going there, attending them, like I said, starting a neurology interest group, just sharing resources, have asking your colleagues, who are interested in neurology, learning about that, trying to get any hands-on experience from doing any, rotation in neurology, even as a second year, it's okay. And also, trying to do an observership early on, just get your hands on experiences in neurology and get your foot in the door by trying to ask people like, can you mentor me, can you guide me, because you need mentorship and guidance early on. Asking professors that, hey, I am interested in neurology, please, can you mentor me, can you guide me, can you tell me more about that. Reaching out to senior residents who are in neurology residency programs, both in your home country or outside, because they can guide you more specific to your specialty. I think that's something that can be helpful. And obviously, as you're being involved and learning about your specialty, prioritize and focusing to get your examinations done, because that's the most basic minimum that you need to get your exams done. And that way you can open up so much more of your time to focus on research, electives, and networking.
Excellent. And that also brings me, that's actually a personal point, because I initially was also interested in neurology. Then I went over to neurosurgery and finally to radiology in the end. So, while you're interested in Pakistan, just to give you like a little bit of my own life story, as a second year person at Army Medical College, I'd actually gone over to Aga Khan to do a research fellowship. So Aga Khan does offer research fellowships for younger students. So that's a great way to spend your summer vacations. I think I forget Dr. Siddiqui or somebody I had done with. There are, Dr. Athar Inam is in neurosurgery over there. So utilize the Pakistani resources as much as possible when you're in medical school, and reach out to these medical schools. So in second year, I actually did that fellowship, and I kind of, surrounded myself with friends who were either from, school or undergraduate years who'd gone to Ahan or other places and try to network there. My third year I actually spent in Shifa, where I found my neurology mentor from University of Oklahoma, Dr. Khatri. He's now in Saudi Arabia. So starting early on, this is great, but you can easily find mentors and research positions. I have friends who have gone to, like Hamad said, Shaukat Khanam offers electives. So these are all positions you can take before your final year electives in the US. At the same time, I know that a lot of people who will be watching are already beyond that stage, so I don't want to discourage you. But definitely, younger folks, if you're starting off early, utilize it to your maximum extent. Yep. Great job, Ahmad. Any other questions, guys? So just for the sake of keeping everything short, I really wanted to thank Hamad for taking his personal time off and giving us this amazing talk about his experience, as well as his keys to excel in the match as a foreign graduate. Ahmad, I'll just let you have your final few words, and then we'll end this conversation and this talk.
Absolutely. I guess the biggest thing I just want to tell you all is that nothing is impossible. I swear by Allah, you guys will make it. Don't feel like you have any deficiencies that will help you. The only one thing I really want to, I guess this is the biggest thing that we take a long time to, sort of wash it out of our system that we've been raised in Pakistan. We have to do everything quickly, 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 quickly. Some things take time, and everyone's journey is unique. So don't be afraid if you're a senior graduate, if you have some deficiencies, if you want something, there are so many different opportunities and alternatives to get to your route. And if you see yourself in America, that'll be it. If you see yourself doing some specialty that is extremely competitive, you will make it. People have matched in neurosurgery. I am an example of, alhamdulillah, I matched in interventional radiology, which for the past many years only American graduates grad, and I'm not special. I'm just someone who had great mentors, great teachers, and a lot of people who were there to help him. So I want to tell this point: do not think that nothing is impossible. Everything will happen at its due time. Work hard, make good connections, be a respectful and, most importantly, kind person. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have the ability to help someone, always pay it forward.